Today we would continue the Touring England series. There are 2 other videos right now about London and the Cotswolds, and then today we're going to be visiting Yorkshire. Your hosts are Ted and Janet. That's Gardner Ted and JQ Rose. And here we are taking a picture from Hebden Bridge, England. And there's the canal right behind us. We had a beautiful day for a visit to Hebden Bridge. We were in the county of Yorkshire, and it is the largest county in England. The red shaded area is that entire county, and there's a lot to see and beautiful landscapes. Well, come along. You can see it for yourself. The purpose for going to Yorkshire was not only to visit this land that we've heard about for so long, but also to meet a friend of ours whom I met because she's an author just like me, and we were in the same publishing house, and her name is Helena Fairfax. Helena is in this area, and she suggested we stay at the Bracken Hall House. It faces on to Shipley Glen. Helena's suggestion to stay at Bracken Hall House was a real winner. We enjoyed the hostess Sally there and all the beautifully appointed room and comfortable and clean. And especially Sally is such a great cook. Look at this Yorkshire breakfast that we could eat every morning if we wished. And at the top is bacon, then egg, beans, tomato, potatoes, blood pudding, sausage. We also got toast and coffee or tea with this. But I wanted to try something different the next day, which on the right is cloud eggs. It's a meringue, and then the yolk and the meringue are baked in the oven, and wow, what a beautiful sight on the dish, and it was very tasty. And of course, being right across from the moors, it was a great location too. These stone walls I had you notice in the other videos too, but I'm just blown away by the craftsmanship in these ancient stone walls. And they just really take no mortar to put them together. Can you imagine that? No mortar. Great skill there, and they need people to do this work. It's kind of a lost art nowadays. Now meet Helena Fairfax. She came the afternoon we arrived at Bracken Hall and picked us up, and we were so happy to see each other and actually in person. It was fun to visit with her. She took us over to Saltaire for a little tour of that city, and then we went on to the Midland Hotel in Bradford, a beautiful Victorian hotel where she treated us for tea. And of course, I ate too much, but it was a lovely experience, my first actual tea in England. Here's a couple of the storefronts at Hebden Bridge, and you'll notice all the stone buildings in this quaint, charming city. And of course, the cobblestone streets. And Hebden Bridge is the setting for one of Helena's stories. She and a bunch of authors from Yorkshire gathered together, and they put together an anthology based around Hebden Bridge. Now, Helena's little book that she's holding right there is the anthology made by the authors, and the name of it is Miss Moonshine's Emporium of Happy Endings. And this doorway is actually the doorway to an art gallery in Hebden Bridge, but they chose this doorway to be on the front cover of the anthology. So it was fun to be able to be there and actually be a part of that exciting time. Here's the city. As we strolled along, there were lots of beautiful flowers. The canal in Hebden Bridge is an important part of their economy because narrow boats dock along that canal. Now, these narrow boats are new to me. Have you heard of them? People actually live on these boats like we do in campers and camp for a couple of weeks. Well, they dock along the canal and stay a couple of weeks and they move on. This is a lock on the canal, and of course they are located all along the canal system there, but they are not manned by anybody. So when you're traveling in your narrow boat, you come to a lock, you get out of your boat, open up the lock, go through, and then close the lock. After our big day there at Hebden Bridge, Helena dropped us off to rest before a big night, and at 4:30 she picked us up again and took us to Leeds to meet her husband Nigel for dinner and a musical at City Varieties Theatre. We ate at a pub first, and I had beef and ale pie. Was that ever good? It was a neat old pub, and we had a great visit there, getting to know each other. They took us then to a musical that featured Kurt Weill's musical work, and it was a very entertaining evening. And then she had to take us all the way back to Brackenhall House again to rest for the next big day in Haworth. The drive to Haworth was a real treat with the beautiful scenery that we passed through. I only wish that my camera could capture the expanse and the beauty of these settings, but it was such a lovely drive. We enjoyed it so much. The purpose in going to Haworth, of course, was to see the city, but also the Bronte Parsonage Museum is located there. If you've heard of Wuthering Heights and Jane Eyre, you probably know these powerful, dramatic stories. Did you know that these women who produced it, all these stories, were daughters of a clergyman? And they are considered powerful and dramatic novels that really changed the literature style in the time that they wrote, which was in the mid-1800s. Their short lives are on display here at the museum and were very eye-opening to me about the tragedy that they had in their lives. This is the parsonage and the home of the Bronte family. Unfortunately, their mother passed away when they were young, and the father, the three girls, the brother Branwell, and their aunt all lived in this beautiful home. Branwell was a young man who just couldn't quite find his place in the world. He had done a lot of careers, and one was a portrait artist, but he had trouble with drugs and alcohol. He painted a portrait of his sisters here, which is beautiful. And at one time he was right in the center of the portrait. But when he came home rather in a drunken rage, or whether he was just very, very ill, he painted himself out of this picture. But it's called the pillar painting. There's a kitchen in the house, done up as it would have been in the mid-1800s. This is the table where the sisters wrote their novels, all their writings, around this table in the parlor. And I just got chills and felt so close to them as I stood and looked in this room and saw this table. What a history it has seen. It was so interesting. In the museum they had samples of their writings, and they wrote on the size of paper was no bigger than a large post-it note, and their writing was much tinier than like a size 8 font in Times Roman. I just could not believe they could write teeny. All of them did it like that. The museum is excellent. If you would like to go through it, do so if you have a chance. This is Patrick's study, their father's desk. And outdoors we have a lovely garden and an area that is so pretty in front of the building. And this is Emily's Rose, named after Emily Bronte. Their father was the vicar of this church, which faced the house, and in between was the cemetery lot. And it was a little creepy to know how difficult a life the Bronte sisters had lived with their brother, and to know the sadness and tragedy in that family. Here's the moorlands that are behind the parsonage, and Helena gave me this lovely picture. Now here's the main street, High Street in historic Haworth. Love these beautiful stone streets and stone buildings. If you notice on the right is the Black Bull pub, and that is one of the pubs that Branwell frequented a lot. And look at this steep, narrow street that goes right through the shopping district. And of course, the delicious Yorkshire cookies at the bakery. And we went in and bought a ginormous one, a Yorkshire rascal, they called it. I wonder if this little guy is a window shopper, a resident, but he was just fine posing there for me on the street. The flowers along the shopping area and actually all through the town were very vibrant because it was kind of a dark gray day, and boy, they popped in that kind of weather. But it was time to say goodbye after our wonderful visit with Helena, and I appreciated her taking us around and showing off Yorkshire area to us. And I hated to say goodbye to Sally at the Brackenhall house. Such a beautiful place to be. Great memories were made in Yorkshire. Thanks for viewing my video, and hopefully there'll be another 4th one coming up on the Lake District. Stay tuned.